Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is David Hanlon, aka the Laptop Legend, and today was another wild, action-packed day. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get the second day run like I was hoping from that crazy 800% runner yesterday, but there were some good dip buys on that, and again, if you were in the Discord, you were probably prepared for that because it looked really weak at open. I said not to buy it right at open, and we got some nice dip buys. You know, when it panicked, 10 cents a share, had some nice bounces, so that was the play on that one today. Unfortunately, it didn't run to 50 cents like I was hoping, but you know, it is what it is. Again, as day traders, we can take advantage of volatility without getting sucked in to all the hype and turning into big bag holders on a stock that's already up 800%. So grateful that I was able to take advantage of that. But there were a lot of other really crazy opportunities today. So mainly today is just gonna be a recap of those crazy opportunities so you guys can learn. And if you're just watching this video because you want a hot stock pick for tomorrow, you just wanna buy blindly, this is not for you. And I know this video might get, you know, 1,000 views because of that, but I'm gonna be going over the trades today that made me $4,800, and that is after taking some stupid losses. I'll talk about that in a second. My overnight position lost 25% because of a tweet that I wasn't prepared for, so a lot of stupid things, but even after all that, I still finished nearly 5,000 profit on the day, so I'm very grateful for that, and there's just so many things to talk about. So let's dive into my computer. As always, please like this video, it really helps the channel out. Subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the link for the Discord in the description down below. That is it. I'll see you guys in my laptop. Alright guys, so I'm here on my laptop, and I just wanted to review the chart for the main ticker that I talked about yesterday, which was WSRC. And you can see that because of the strong close, we did actually get a nice gap up. But what ended up happening was it really didn't gap up that much. So it gapped up from about 25 to the highest we saw in the gap up was 27.5, and if I zoom in a little bit, we can get the actual opening price. The actual opening price was 25.31, so I mean it barely opened up at all, and the fact that it tried to gap up and got stuffed was a pretty good sign that this thing was not going to be one of those continuation plays, but that it was in fact going to be a dip buy play. And there's a lot of great opportunities to profit on dip buys. I probably should have mentioned that as another option. Honestly, yesterday, it's so ingrained into me at this point because I always look to dip buy plays that are up too much that have a nice panic that I didn't even think to mention that because I thought the most likely scenario was that this actually continued to run. But you know, I guess in the future I will always mention that as a possibility, so that is on me. But again, I call this out live in the Discord. You know, it was very weak at open and it ended up dumping, and I was actually able to, I think, nail a couple of these dip buys. I traded so many times a day, probably like 300 or 400 trades today, so I don't remember all of my entries on this, but you know, it had some nice entries, guys. It had some nice entries. If you get in and sell into strength, it's pretty easy to make money on these bounces, and that's kind of the main thing. And then it did perk up a little bit here, had a nice little run from what, 16 all the way up to 20, so that was nice, and then faded off towards the end of the day. Unfortunately, I was hoping it was going to hold this support level right here at like 14.4, but it broke that. Now it still is holding 12, that's where it bounced here before, so technically this is not 100% for sure completely dead. You know, it could hold this support level right here, bounce back up and maybe break those highs at some point, but I would say more than likely this stock is probably dead at this point. So yeah, I mean, it stinks, but it was a nice run while we had it, and it's nice to see these big OTC runners, and it feels like it's setting a precedent because today we had an even crazier runner. Believe it or not. So the volume on this one was actually a lot lower, but let me pull it up for you guys. It's EGDD. And this chart doesn't look like much. If I go to the yearly chart, like you can't really see anything, but there was literally no volume. Like I think there was only shares traded like 10 days this year. But then out of nowhere, I think they uploaded something to OTC markets, or maybe, yeah, they uploaded some business information with some dude as president, secretary, and director, and because of that, it started running, guys. And this stock ran from 3 cents, and it ran to a high of 44 cents. And the volatility on this is insane. You can take 2,500 shares and absolutely bank. Like, you don't have to take big size on this at all. If you take big size, you're setting yourself up for a pretty bad you know, loss if this ends up dying. But here's the thing. This had a really nice breakout, and you know, it ran a lot and it pushed really high, but it consolidated really nicely, and this was a perfect breakout area. Unfortunately, I ended up looking away right as this happened because there was ton of other plays going on, so I missed this breakout, but I did call it out perfectly. I said, if this thing breaks out of the consolidation and breaks those highs, it should see a really nice rip. I'm not even sure if anyone in the Discord got in on this one, but you can see, I mean, absolutely beautiful, guys. Actually, we did have one guy. I forget who you are. Shout out to you, though. You got 5,000 shares from 29, and I think he sold them up here into this spike. So that's a nice little play, man. And these are the types of plays that you want to do on this. Get in, small size, and the volatility will just absolutely let you make a ton of money, man. And I love it. I absolutely love plays like this. So shout out to WSRC for starting off this type of this type of market environment where we get runners that run this much. I mean, this thing closed up 1,500% on the day. I mean, that's crazy, man. That's insane. But I still did make some decent money on this. I think on some of these dip buys, I just sold way too soon. And then right here, I dip bought and then I sold. I bought it like 27 and sold it like 27.5 or something because no bids were coming in. I thought it was gonna not pop up, and then a bid popped up at 32, so I could have sold there, made another like 200 bucks or something. So that was annoying. I missed out on that, but it is what it is, guys. So many opportunities. And honestly, I feel like I butchered every single opportunity today. I really do. And I still ended up where I ended up. So that's the great thing about trading. You're never going to get everything 100% perfect unless your name is Jazzy and you top tick a supernova. But that's a whole nother discussion. But you just have to do good enough, guys. You just have to do good enough and always be striving to be better. And if you can keep learning from your mistakes, you know, even on days where you execute horribly, you're still going to have really great profit days. So I'm totally fine with that, man. GGII, this is why I lost money overnight. So I bought 300,000 shares from like a 104, 103 average, somewhere in there. And George Sharp decides to tweet about how much of a scam GGII is overnight. And because of that, this thing gapped down and I sold for like a... Well, luckily I didn't have to sell down at 78 because this thing was looking really scary in pre-market for OTC, but I think I sold at like 88 or something like that, so I took like a $500 loss or something like that. It was frustrating, you know, right out of the gate, but I knew I'd be able to make it back, and you got to eat them. Maybe it bounces from these levels, man. This is another even more beaten down now, even more likely that it bounces, so I'll see how it looks tomorrow, but stinks to take that type of loss. That's another one that I screwed up today. So now to get into the real shake your money makers. So FNMA, I mean, wow. Look at this chart, guys. This is one of the most brutal, epic panics you might ever see. And this thing had some pretty insane liquidity. Absolutely great. I mean, this chart is just like, it does nothing, and then it came out that... I forget exactly what it was. Something, you know, Supreme Court saying that it can't be a private business. It's going to stay public or something like. I forget exactly what it was. Honestly, I don't really care. Clearly, it was bad news, and it started selling off big. So I actually didn't see this right away as it happened. I only saw this. Where did I see this? I saw this probably right about here at this area, and I wanted to short this, but I didn't want to take too big size because, you know, when you see a chart that dips from 250 all the way down to 210, you could see a really nice bounce all the way up to, you know, 225 or something like that, 230. So I don't want to risk that and have huge size on a short and get absolutely screwed. So unfortunately, I took really small size, guys. I started in short. I shorted 2,000 shares at 205, and I should have taken way, way bigger size because this thing just kept dumping and dumping and dumping. Eventually, I got up to huge size. Down here, I was short at one point like 20,000 shares of this stock. And, you know, it got really choppy and I gave a good amount back in this area, you know, where it looks like it's bouncing. So I long it and then it dumps. So I cut and I short and then it bounces again. And I got into a little bit of trouble in this area. So I did give back some profits. But then luckily I was able to make more sense of it and, you know, sell into strength, buy into weakness on these. It had a nice bounce here. I was able to short into the bounce. I made another 1,000 on this short here to make back some of those choppy losses and a little bit more. And then it was just nice, man. I didn't have the confidence to dip buy and hold, you know, from any of these levels, but it did, you know, it did bounce up nicely from this area. It was just tough, man, because I guess I was taking big size where every penny was like $100 or every penny was $200, and it's a little bit tough, especially when you're trying to buy on the bid because it's right over $1. So like the spread is a large percentage. If you buy on the ask and then it downticks and you sell on the bid, you're losing like 2% or a little bit, I guess a little bit less than 2%. So it's just annoying. You really got to consider that on a stock like this that's just over $1. because each penny is such a big percentage, especially if you're taking a huge position. So if you're buying and selling market, like, you can get really, really screwed. So you got to be careful with that. But I mean, this was just an absolutely epic play, guys. I messed it up on the long side, unfortunately. Like I said, I chased a little bit long into some of these bounces, some of these wicks here, and then ended up cutting near the bottom. So I did that with somewhat reasonable size. I think 6,000 shares was the most I had, but I mean, you see this range, 6,000 shares, every penny is 60 bucks. So I ended up giving back all of my morning profits on whatchamacallit. I can't even remember the name now. So many tickers. Yeah, WSRC. I ended up giving back all those morning profits on this, which was annoying. But this was actually later on, honestly. I'm pretty sure. I don't even remember, man. So many things happened today. It's insane. So I gave back a lot on this. I totally butchered the long. I mean, you could buy huge size here and sell it up here, make some serious guap, but I messed that up. Luckily, I did get that short nicely on this bounce short. So that's another typical strategy, guys. I'm not sure if I've mentioned that before, but you know, when you have a big panic, typically there's a nice bounce, and then shorting into the bounce is very, very typical. You know, wherever the bounce tops out, you're gonna make some nice money on that short. This is a thing on both daily patterns and intraday patterns as well. So this was another huge play, probably the biggest play on the day for me. The two other main plays today for me were AVVH, and this is one that I've wanted to buy for a while, and I actually was here and I called out the news in the Discord. They got their merger news announced. Basically, this is another one of those like custodianship plays where they're doing some merger, and some companies coming in and basically becoming one with this stock. And they announced who it was, and it started spiking up off of that originally. So I made some good money on this by buying like 9.5. Well, actually, originally it came out like right here. You guys can see. So I originally bought it like, I don't know, like 9.3, and then I sold it like mid fours because it really wasn't spiking. Like, there wasn't as much volume as I was anticipating. But then it was able to break out past. So I rebought at 9.5, sold at like 9.9, which was nice. And then I saw it starting to dip, so I got all out. And then it dipped down huge, so I started dip buying at 9.5 here. I'm like, hell yeah, this is gonna be great. It's gonna pop back up and rip to new highs. Well, here's the thing, guys. This is the same type of deal, the buy the hype, sell the news phenomenon. And I've made videos about this recently, so luckily, I was not as horribly blindsided by this as I could have been, but I still took a loss on this because I wasn't prepared for horrible executions. So AVVH has had pretty good executions for me, but when you are trying to sell in the middle of a huge panic, OTC stocks, it's like impossible to get out, which stinks. So I ended up buying here. I don't know how many I got long, man. I think I got long like 100,000 or something like that, way too many. And then it keeps dipping. It dips down to like 9.3, and I'm thinking, all right, I'm gonna average down a little bit, and then it's gonna pop back up at least to 9.5, you know, and I can get out for maybe a small loss. But then it starts breaking low a day, and I'm thinking, all right, wait a second. This is about to be one of those sell the news phenomenon. It's gonna dump, and for no reason, because it's literally, it's good news. This is what the company has been waiting for. But everyone who was buying, you know, on all these days, expecting some great merger news, they expect it to spike here, and once the news comes out, they start trying to sell into that, and then it just turns into a massive panic because everyone expects it to spike, and it's not spiking, so they're like, why is it not spiking? They start freaking out, they start panic selling. This happens all the time, guys, literally all the time. I'll show you another example from today of where this happened, but I mean, it's such a crazy chart. So this thing sold off a ton, and I was able to get out most, but I still got stuck with some. So I got out most of my shares, and you know, it started dumping, and I was still stuck with like 100,000 shares, which for every penny you lose $1,000, guys. So definitely not ideal. And I got stuck in like a big washout. I'm not sure exactly where it was. I think it might have been, I got mostly out. I got mostly out here. Maybe I had like 20,000 left, and then I dip bought here, I think, trying to, you know, I guess catch this dip and ride it back up here and make some of that loss back. So I might have been long like 100,000 here, couldn't get out, and I was long like 100,000 from here all the way down to here. And I think I managed to get out here, and then it stuffed again. I made a little bit back there, but it dumped even harder. And I was able to get some here, but then I sold it all by like, I don't even know if I made it to 6, bro. I think I sold it all at like 5.8 or something like that. So just absolutely pathetic. then this thing goes and bounces all the way up almost to 8. And, you know, I missed the reshort on this bounce. I actually was able to short on this, but I had way smaller size because, again, I can only short, I guess now I can short 37,000-ish shares because my Schwab account is getting bigger. It's up to almost 95 grand. So once I hit 100 grand, I can short 40,000 shares. 125 grand, I can short 50,000 shares. Just the 250 rule. You can do some research on that if you haven't seen my video on that already. But it's just a crazy chart, man. So honestly, I think this could be a good thing if you want to swing this for the long term because it's sold off huge on the buy, the hype, sell, the news phenomenon. And this is definitely a better entry if you want to hold this thing long term. Like I wanted to hold this long term because I think, you know, with the merger, like I feel like this could be decent. But then you look at the chart and it's up from 0.0002. So I mean, this thing is already up a lot, bro. 50,000% at 10 cents. So it's like, do I really want to be dip buying here when it could fall that much? So it's tough. It really is tough. And I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure what the move is on this one. Maybe I can try to swing, but honestly, knowing myself, I'm a little too risk averse. So I guess we'll just see what happens. So that is that chart. The last main day trading chart from today, guys. And again, sorry it's a long video, but just so many plays today was Phil. And if you'll recall, this stock was spiking up over the last few days in anticipation of the Emerging Growth Conference. And I've seen this time and time again, guys. The Emerging Growth Conference has never had a positive effect on a stock. I've never seen a time where, like, when the CEO is presenting at the Emerging Growth Conference, the stock spikes up. I've never, ever seen that. What I have seen is the stock absolutely dump when the CEO says something bad. And I think the day that happened, there was one huge red day. I'm not sure which one that is. It might be April. No, I think it was in April. I think that might have been, yeah, that was this day right here. That was April 14th. So literally, if I go to the intraday chart on April 14th, let me just go real quick. April 14th for you guys. Go to the 1 day. Just so you can see that. So like this is what happened at the Emerging Growth Conference. So like this thing just absolutely sold off because the CEO said something bad. So I've seen stocks dump because of the Emerging Growth Conference, but I've never actually seen them spike up. And basically, I mean, it just made sense. It made sense. And this was very predictable. I knew this was coming. Unfortunately, I missed out on a decent part of the short. I still made something, but not as much as I'd like. Also, this is a very cheap stock. And again, I can only short 37,000 shares, so not very helpful. But, you know, once it broke, sell the news, man. You know, right as soon as the CEO went on to speak at the Emerging Growth Conference, the catalyst was over. People were buying it in anticipation of that, hoping it would spike up when that happened. When it didn't spike up, when it cracked the low a day, when it cracked this support, it just went into full-on panic mode. And, I mean, you could see this support right here. It tried to bounce there, failed, and then just went into a straight, utter panic. So, I mean, it was very predictable. And this is just one of those times where, like, buy the hype, sell the news, and be prepared for that. You know, if a stock goes up a ton in anticipation of an event that everyone knows when it is, it's very likely that the stock is going to tank once that event actually happens. Like, it happens all the time, guys. I mean, there's so many examples in the market, man. There's so many examples. The one thing that did surprise me, actually, was how well this stock bounced. I mean, it bounced 50%. Maybe a little bit more. It bounced from 0.009 all the way up to 1.41. It's like a 50% bounce. And unfortunately, I absolutely butchered this. You know, I got some size here, but I'd taken some losses on the long side by getting a little too early. So I was a little skittish, man. So I got some longs, but, you know, I sold them here. I went again here, sold them here, dip bought here, sold them here, but like small size. Nothing big as if I'd taken 500,000 shares from 9 and, you know, rode them all the way up to 1.1 or all the way up to 1.3 or something like that. So I definitely butchered this dip buy. But it is what it is. I did get a nice reshort here, but again, very cheap stock, so not much you can do that. DPLS, guys, so many plays. This had a nice short right near open, you know, parabolic spike, and then I shorted it here, and it broke down, new low a day. Was nice there, covered that. It ended up fading off towards the end of the day. This thing was going to panic. This thing should have panicked. I mean, it did break that low there and sort of panicked a little bit. And then it popped back up and was being annoying. And then we got some news, which I did call out in the Discord. I did buy that news. I forget exactly where that came out, but it did spike this stock up a decent amount. And I was able to make some off that, but again, I wasn't patient enough on the news because it was like a very weird delayed spike. That news came out, I think, at like 245 or something like that. It might have been like right here, or like maybe it was right there. I forget. It was weird. Didn't really do too much, but I think, you know, it helped push the stock back up. So looking overall at this chart, man, it's very strange to see a chart like this. Like, you very rarely see a stock that'll run up this high and then just be like choppy up in this area near those highs. So with all these days, guys, it wouldn't surprise me actually to see another push from DPLS. Now, I'm not saying it for sure does that, but we've seen a lot of times where like a stock will do this choppy consolidation near the highs and then just blow past that. So if this wants to have an explosive day and go to like 15 or 20, I would be so happy with that, because it would be a great long opportunity and then a great short opportunity. Once it gets up there, some nice panic dip buys, it's going to be epic. So hopefully it does that. The other alternative is that it just, you know, continues to fade off choppily, which is honestly maybe more likely. So I'll still be looking to short this thing because it's still up a lot from 2 cents all the way up to 7. So we'll see. I'm watching that. And then the last one, LWLG, guys. This stock is so manipulated. I love it. This is one of those just blatant pumps, man. I mean, there's some people who are super bullish on this stock, and you know, maybe it's a great stock. But when you see a chart that looks like this, you know it's going to have an epic red day. I'm not sure when it's going to come. I hope this thing pumps over 10 bucks before it dumps, but I will be looking for a massive short on this one sometime in the very, very near future. And then ONPH, this one is still on high watch until it decides what it wants to do. Hopefully it can go a little bit higher. I'm not sure. It's being a little weird right now in this area. It keeps like trying to break down and then not breaking down. If you look at the intraday charts, it'll like break down and bounce up and then break down. So maybe it gaps up again tomorrow, or maybe it just goes and panics straight at open tomorrow. So I'm not sure. I'd like to have it go higher for it to be a better short, but that is that. And yeah, I really didn't trade listed stocks today. I haven't even looked. AMC still consolidating in this range. So maybe it does something interesting. Maybe it doesn't. I really don't know. But yeah, that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this helpful. Sorry for the long video, but some crazy plays today. Absolutely crazy. So if you can mess up plays and still make good money, man, you're in the right business. So hopefully you found it helpful. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, you know the drill. Let's grow better together. Bebé, dime por qué te mientes. No puedes esconder todo lo que tú por mí sientes.